This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you all. Today I want to look at a fun topic that I thought of doing, and that is, are the rebels actually mass murderers? And by that, I mean, will the rebels be likely convicted for mass murder, or worse, for the destruction of the Death Star, the second Death Star, and also the resistance for Starkiller Base? But that's way too long of a title, and the one I have is a lot shorter and better. I think I might change a little bit to be, is the Rebel Alliance guilty of mass murder? That sounds a little better. I'll change that one in a minute. Okay, so I'm just mainly doing this all off the top of my head. That's kind of more of a thought thing, not exactly like a legal definition, because I'm not a lawyer, and do not coach me for legal advice. But I'm just trying to think about this logically. And by that I mean, if it is going to be justified, then I think that we could say that they will not be convicted. But if the attack, the destruction is not justified, then I think that they would be found guilty, or likely found guilty, which can act like there's a completely impartial jury for them, and they don't lean towards the rebellion/resistance, or the Empire/First Order. But let's go in. So let's first look at the first Death Star destruction, and I think that one is the most straightforward one, especially compared to the other two, because that was a defensive attack. The Death Star showed up to the Rebel base, tried to destroy it, and that destruction would clearly be self-defense because the Rebels were aware of what the Death Star could do, and were not able to evacuate their base in time, so they used the data they had that they got from Scarif to be able to destroy it. So, in the most straightforward one, I think the first Death Star is fully justified, but it gets a lot harder when we start to think about the second Death Star and Starkiller Base. I'm not even going to consider the First Order or Final Order fleet, because that is just a different story, and they would probably not be guilty because, it's the majority of the galaxy going up against them. So it would seem that most people would be on their side. But I don't want to look at that one because that one's a little more complicated, but these ones are a lot easier to look at. So looking at these, really, I would say the second Death Star is a little cleaner than Starkiller Base, because with Starkiller Base we have the fact that they're still blowing up a planet to destroy this weapon, and I mean they're technically kind of committing genocide to any native species to the planet of Ilum, which is what Starkiller Base was originally, and they're technically also destroying a religious site, which is the Jedi Temple in Ilum. But we're going to kind of go back to that later. Let's take a look at the second Death Star and the biggest arguments against it. The two that I can mainly see is that it was an under construction weapon and posed no threat to their knowledge at the time, and that, on the other hand, there was a lot of innocent workers and they killed a lot of innocents in it. And for one thing that definitely goes towards it, I would say that we cannot consider the fact that Palpatine knew they were coming into it, because we have to go from their perspective, and they didn't know that it was a trap going in. So they wouldn't have known that Palpatine could have had the chance to evacuate his workers, and Palpatine probably kept them on to keep the illusion, so we'll just assume that a bunch of innocent workers were killed in that blast. But I think that this one would be considered justified, since the rebels both knew what was going on there and how powerful this weapon could be, I think it would be likely justified that they did what they had to with very minimal but necessary civilian casualties. But I still think that definitely would be a little controversy around this decision if it was made in a court, especially with people who lost many family members and the death there. But then again, those were all mainly slave labor, and not to make it sound better because they're killing slaves, which actually makes it worse, but there are people who won't even know that they have family on there, with the exception of Imperial soldiers, and the point of them killing some Imperial soldiers that are off duty seems that it would outweigh it also because of the great threat that it posed to the galaxy. But I think that this might be a little bit stretched thin with Starkiller Base because it can't be fully seen as a defensive attack because they had to send the X-Wings to the location and they technically did have enough time to be able to fully evacuate the base, but they decided not to and stay set up there, which is, I think, kind of a dumb decision. If they had the time, they probably should have did it, but it's a movie, so I'm not going to put it against them. But one of the things that is really crazy when you start to think about it is, like I mentioned earlier, the fact that they did technically commit genocide by killing any species that were exclusively native to Ilum. And on this side, even if it wasn't unintentional, I still think that accidental genocide is pretty bad, and mass murder looks like almost nothing compared to it. I mean, you could see them at least putting it as justified, but with such high casualties of any native population, and technically committing the type of crime they were trying to prevent, it makes the Starkiller base thing way more complicated. Although there are still some valid options and reasons for them to do it, including the fact that them destroying one planet saves countless others, so I could see that being a successful reason to justify it, and I think that is a pretty good reason. But I think that Starkiller Base has the highest likelihood of the Resistance being found guilty, and the Rebellion seems pretty safe with both of their attacks, unless you want to count them on some kind of treason account, but we're not going to count them on that because we'll be acting like this is just the winning side, being able to be looking back at the decisions and a court going against the members there for some wrongful deaths that could be pressed by some former Imperials or Imperial families or First Order families. But also I feel like the fact that they did technically blow up a bunch of brainwashed troopers with Starkiller Base just kind of makes it even worse, but I don't know, I just feel like the first two Death Star attacks are far more easily to be justified, and although I do think that the Starkiller Base attack would also be justified, I just see that one as the greatest likelihood of having them be found guilty. But that's really what I think. Please, if you know anything about this topic, or if you're like an actual lawyer or something, this would be an interesting topic for you to cover too. I don't really mind as long as if you want to give me credit, you could do it. But if you had this idea originally, please don't go attacking anyone. But I do think this is kind of a semi-original idea because I have heard things about people saying that they did commit mass murder, but I just kind of wanted to look at if it made logical sense. And like I said, for at least the first two Death Stars, it seems that you could get a logical argument to why they would do it and would not be found guilty. But On the other hand, we know that at least they will not be able to get as easily away with Starkiller base, but it's still extremely likely. And of course, this is all kind of irrelevant if you really consider how the victor always writes history, so they probably won't even be going to these trials, and it would probably be settled out of court or something. But really, I just wanted to look at this. It was just a fun thing I wanted to do. It was kind of different for May 4th, and really look out for the Bad Batch review that will be coming out on Saturday, covering episodes 1 and 2. I will also be going over a bunch of new Arrowverse stuff tomorrow. And I don't really know, I have something to do for Thursday. I don't really know what I'm going to do. Also, I'm going to attempt to stream Jedi Fallen Order later today. And if that doesn't work, I'll try Battlefront 2's campaign. Unless I have a bunch of homework to do and stuff, then I probably won't do it. Because I usually just play this during my lunch break. And I might have to meet for a group project then. So I'm not really sure. But I really hope I do get a chance. But either way, I do hope you have a good May 4th. May the 4th be with you, and have a good day. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please like the video, leave some comments, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends, and may the Force be with you.